All right, all right. Shalom, shalom, family. We get everything set here. All right, all right. Well, we back to another power up. I hope that your day is going good. Give the shout out. See to those that's coming in the room. All right, all right. And just lifting the things and the honor and the glory to the Most High. Sarah. All right, all right. Okay, we are here. We made it once again in the middle of the week, of course, according to how you're looking at it. So we just going to jump into a couple of things. Of course, the title was something that was on my mind and trying to get in relation to, right? In the fact that I had, of course, other teachings and with the scriptures that we'll use, will only be in the sense of what we are trying to bring out. Just going just a little different way, So sometimes you can be swimming and you can go, in the big waves or the little waves, or you can go in the deep end or the shallow end. So we're just gonna try the shallow end to get us to develop and to grow just a little bit and to give us something to think about. So if we can get this done, we can get it done shortly and begin to make that move again in that. So see, and definitely lifting up the things of the Father and honoring Him in all things. And we are thanking Him that somehow that we could, excuse me, get through that. And just really knowing that what the Father can do is search the heart. But that's a card there. You shut that door. That card is on my door. Okay, all right. But we just thanking the Father in that. Okay, we're gonna. Okay, all right. They coming. They are coming in the room. We're trying to get those things set and get it. There we go. I was trying to hit it there. They're trying to work it all together. Okay, Jeremiah chapter 17 is one of the launch pad that we'll use to get into this real quickly, though. But I wanted to go back again that people read the headlines. Now, here's where I want to kind of go with this too, and it's important. And people read the headlines, right? And I guess I'm dating myself. I guess I could have said so much thing of all the technology that we have now. We could express ourselves in different ways. But the headlines was something that would always grab you. Those of us are familiar with newspapers, right? They would always be something there. So now we got we would call them what, thumbnails or something that kind of get your attention in order to you to dig even deeper into that. But what I was going with that is sometimes headlines, and not any particular headline, but sometimes those headlines are not accurate, and especially when they're dealing with someone or some people or a group of people even, right? So the headlines are not always so. And so sometimes when I see a headline or when I see something, I look at it as, first of all, I never, think about, well, this is not true. Well, it has to be true if it's in the paper. So it's sort of like it has to be true if it's on the internet, right? So you never, when you go into something, you never think about it, right? You just look at the headlines and it sort of grabs you, and sometimes you may be looking for a specific thing. So if it says, earthquake and such, they have it there in big letters and whatever. We call them titles as well. So something that gets you in order for you to go deeper into what you have in that. But the accuracy of it is where this problem come in at. And so whether it's articles or whatever, and many a times, hopefully I'm getting better, but many a times I would read something, and whether it be a headline or article, and I would pass it on to the next person. But if it was about a specific person, I would pass that on as if whatever it was, and I'm using a newspaper today as well, right? So whatever it was, whatever was there in the newspaper, then I would pass that on to someone else as being fact, right? And I find out now that you definitely need to slow down on that, And I think we need to be a little bit more considerate and more concerned about what we read far as passing it on, right? Because there is no you can't. It's hard to get details in reporting something, right? When you report something, you kind of report it on what you have, some facts, and then what you think, and then what you think it ought to be. So we always have that, and so it's very, very, very difficult, right? So it's not like you throw in the whole towel. Okay, now who will I listen to though, or what? I mean, everything that comes across there. Well, no, of course not. We know that. But if I make this turn to the fact of when an individual or a group or whatever, when you have that, whatever comes across in the media, we can use that word as well too. In the media, then that's what sometimes we accept it, as that is that person, right? And sometimes it is not. It is not that person. And before I am even more convinced now, and it's really something because you pass it on and knowing that it's been years of practicing that. And most times when you're coming into the covenant of Most High, a lot of what we would call habits have to be broken, right? Those habits has to be broken, and sometimes it can be difficult in that. So what do? We'd have to have a starting point though in order to break it. So because now we have to be practicing and then develop another way in that. And so sometimes if we would line up to the things of the Father, then we'll find out that when we do that, then it will be more effective in the things that we do, right? If we do that. And to not to pass anything on, and I may be, you can get the details of something, but I'm saying, again, I want to bring it down just to a person there. And if I got a headline about a person, I cannot take that by facts. I have to be able, and I'm learning. I'm kind of developing this as well. So, but I want you to get this. I have to be able to really talk to the person, for me to really know what that person is saying about something, or somebody saying something about that person. I need to discuss it with the person, and then I'm getting it firsthand, and then I'm getting the factual thing because they are telling me now. What they're telling me, but I'm getting it from them. I'm not getting it from a headline, anything like that. So it is very important because many times that the name, you get one headline out or one article out or one whatever out, and it was not correct. Now, before it gets undone, it could be already out there. They use the word viral. It can already be out there, right? Before the correction comes. And this is the sad part about it is say if 100 people read it, right, and then the correction come, the percentage is down. You don't get 100% of the people that read the article, right? The 100 people. When you get it again, maybe, and I'm just developing this as this storyline, you may get 80%. We'll say 80% that get the correction that was not so. But the other 20% is running around thinking that it was so because you never got it. You didn't get the other article or the other news that what that was. It needed to be corrected, right? It needed to be corrected. So the 20% still has somebody's name. If we say it wasn't a pleasant thing for that person's life, then it is still out there. That 20% still has it. You see. In that. So if I, and it's a difficult thing though, but if I can pass things on. So for instance, if they was talking about, I'm just, using a name, if they were talking about person A, right? Then if I knew person A, if I could go to person A and talk to them, then I could get the real story, right? So if somebody as a reporter get a story from me, they just only reporting what happened. But I can get it from that person, then I know that in order to pass something on, right? In order to pass something on, then I know that, So, and I'm just talking about individuals here, there's so much to be developed about this. That which you can, that which you can. Because sometimes, we operate on what somebody reported about something, right? The witnesses. This is how we got our scriptures, right? There's somebody reporting that. I can't go ask Jeremiah I can't ask them what's going on, in that, right? So it's been reported, sitting down, and then we won't go there because it has been translated and all of that, right? So what I am saying is that in our lives of searching someone's heart or knowing the heart, that Yahweh knows the heart because he tries the kidneys. He gives every man according to his ways. Now he is a just judge. He gives every man according to his ways, right? And so I cannot, in that sense, know that secret, that searching of. And so when I looked at that, I could look at it, I say, sometimes we need to do our own then, if we want to say investigation about a situation. And so our investigation most times is on somebody else's investigation, right? So it would be ideal to talk to the person, but we know that that's not always so. So as our circle begins to get smaller, because we can get reports from all over the world, right? All over the world. So unless you can pull up wherever it is in another country, pull up and ask somebody and talk to somebody and be there, because I'm here to tell you that no matter what's going on, the report is different as it gets to the next country or the next spot. It is different. If you was there, you can know. Sometimes say the locals can tell you really what's going on. The locals can tell you that. Right. And then that's where we try to go to report from. Now, I'm not here saying that don't believe all the reports. That's really not my point. I hope you're not hearing that. And I'm not being effective if you are hearing that. But what I am saying, because I don't want that to cloud it, don't go there. I am saying in the individual, in a close vicinity of relationship, of assembly, of your neighborhood, of what your surroundings, the people that you can get to, right? Because no matter what, according to his ways, that's how Yahweh knows, according to the fruit of his deeds. So what you do, right? So what you do is as a echo of your heart. But there are spots in there that really that you will have not been doing, or you can do, or that's the ones that the Father knows about, right? Those are the things, because he knows. So we can present ourselves in certain ways that is not reflected of our heart to others. But we cannot do that to the Most High. Now, we can do that with one another, but we can't do that to the Most High, right? And so I can present myself in a certain way that only Yahweh knows the real deal of what I'm really doing. So if I was, say, some trying to con someone or trying to do deceiving, then only Yahweh knows, right? Now, doing a deception or deceiving nobody doesn't mean that automatically that I have a deceiving heart, right? This is something that I may be doing that should not be doing. Sometimes we can make ourselves more look more what I want to say, look more presentable, or look more what I'm trying to say, more than what we are to someone, or more what we can even accomplish. But we want to present that we can, accomplish that, whatever it might be, right? And so the Father already knows that I cannot accomplish that. But the way that I'm talking, the way that I present myself, the way that I do those things, the people that are listening to me now seems like, yes, he can do it. right? He can do it. So I'm trying to give you an example of something like that, but the Father knows those ways about us, which a person does not know, because in order to do that, almost a person would have to be with you, what, 24/7, as we say, idiom that we use, right? So that means all the time, right? And so there's a certain amount of that that reflects who you are, and that's where we want to be able to, when we are walking in the covenant and have the character of the Most High, that's where we want to develop. That's where we are at, right? What's in our heart, then that's what we are doing. Because sometimes, a lot of times, we are really, developing, and we growing, and that heart shapes in a certain way. That heart and that kidney and that thing being the inner man, your will, all of those things, the inner parts, what reflects you, your inclination, your determination, all of those things are there. That's sealed in there, right? And what you're doing. So that's constantly being developed, and that's constantly being portrayed in your deeds. It should be, you know. So one thing that you can do, though, is one thing that you cannot do is get say con the, if you want to say con the Father, trick him or deceive him into thinking who if you say that I love you, I love you, Yahweh, I love you, then your heart has to reflect that. And so he has taken part in that because he knows how important it is, so he will take a part in that because he knows how important it is to us, right? To us. And if you want that, then he will guide you and put you in those ways that, you really could go, or you really could have opportunity to do so, right? And so it is always important. Proverbs chapter 21 verse 2: all a man's ways are right in his own eyes, right? And that's what it's saying. But Yahweh, and he weighs the heart, right? He weighs the heart. And for you to line up with that, because you always start out that you know the right way, right? You know that right way. But and when you present it to somebody, regardless on what you think is right, the Father knows your heart in that, right? He knows that. And so that's going back to the person that really is presenting themselves a right way, or of a right way, and what they think is right, right? Because men in general, not just say covenant, but men all over. So if we talking about news, we talking about internet, just click right now. Well, when it's over, just click and you'll find out all of the things that we have, right? All of the things that come together. We have that, and that's very important, right? Psalms 21:2. You have given me the desires of my heart. Now, many times you look at that word, and the desire is not talking about just, a brand new cars and all that. He's not talking about that. We want our desires to be his desires, but it is a request, right? So when we make a request known to him, right, he will give us the desires of our heart, right, in that. So I am using this. I'm not saying that this is so, okay, but I'm using this as the language. Sometimes we can say things and do things, right? But that's not what's really in our heart. And sometimes in a deceiving, let me take this back, in a deceptive way, in the sense of ourselves, we really don't understand our own selves sometimes, meaning what we'll do and what we won't do until the situation or the opportunity comes, right? And so we would say, oh, I won't do that until the opportunity is given to do that, then I do it. Well, in the sense, that part was always in your heart, you just didn't know it, right? You didn't know it. So that's the thing of waiting that heart, and giving you the desires that you need. So you had a desire to do the right thing, and the Father knew you had a desire to do the right thing, but you end up doing something else as well, right? And you have withheld the request from his lips, right? You have not withheld the request of his lips. So those things that was said unto him, you gave him the desires that he need. Right? You gave those things that he needs. So the Father will always direct us in what we need and how we need it, because the judgment, you want me to just say the judgment hall is in our hearts like that, And so the more that we develop, then the more that we discover ourselves, right? And most times we can say, I like this, I don't like that. Why is that? It's because we are discovering ourselves. But the Father knew that it was always there anyway, right? Because he have some things that he does in that, right? And those things are always a choice. Isaiah 29 and 13. And Yahweh said, because this people has drawn near to its mouth, and with lips they have esteemed me. And this is important here. And it has kept its heart from me, far from me, just not from me, but far from me, right? And their fear of me has become a commandment of men that is taught. So their hearts, right? It keeps their hearts far from me. So that's where I was trying to go when I was saying that even with your mouth, what you say and what you do, and sometimes, so you can esteem the things of the Father and know that, oh, this is what I want to do. But is your heart connected, right? And then using that. So you can have a disconnect. Listen to me. You can have a disconnect and still do those things. So we call it here, English or whatever, we call it going through the motions. That's an idiom. You're just doing something on automatic, but it's not attached to. So you need to make sure that it's attached to your heart when it comes to the things of the Father, right? So you have the commandments of men, then you have the commandments of the Father. So what is it? We always keep the commandments of the Father. They never override, right? The commandments of men never override that. But sometimes the commandments of men can get me different situations and different things, and I can do different things. Whereas the commandments of the Father can bring about a persecution, and it may not bring about advancement in the things of the world sometimes, right? So we have those things, and I was using this scripture, and these scriptures have a context in them now. So I'm using this trying to get us, really to understand the disconnect from the heart, but the Father knows the heart, So no, even though you had a headline on somebody, they can have been going through the motions of something, and the Father does know their heart, and that's a statement that many use many times. I know as I'm growing up, they say, well, in the sense of this, they say, well, the Father knows my heart. I know I did this, but the Father knows my heart, and that is a true statement. He does, right? And that's your emotions and all that, and so the compassion of things is just there, right? And so, yes, he does. Yes, he does. And when we read earlier, though, your deeds will reflect your heart, right? Also, Now you can have a disconnect, but it also can reflect. And that's what I was saying earlier. You can present one thing, but the deeper of it is sometimes when those lonely moments that we have, those laying in the bed moments, those moments when we are maybe by ourselves, the moments that nobody else knows that we do, right? That's a disconnect there, right? That we have to do. So sometimes though, and most of the time, so one of the things that can keep you from that is the commandments of man. You can always, you'll end up having a disconnect if you do that. And in our scriptures, that was something that was prevalent because man will always get into it, because every man doesn't have their heart following it and going after the things of the Father. And Psalms 37:3, trust in Yahweh. And then it said, if I trust him, I will do good. So this is what I need to do is I know if I trust him, then there's a place that I can do good, right? And those who dwell in the earth. So dwelling in the earth, a feed on standfastness, or some may look at it as being faith or that what you believe in. So you feed on that. Sort of like the analogy that he uses for us as sheep, right? So what we do is we feed on good, right? That trust in him, that's what we are feeding on. So if we're looking at it, we'll feed on that because our trust is in him, right? We dwelling in that. And then it said that delight yourself in Yahweh. He has to be a delight, right? He has to be a delight. Nothing that he always does have done for you already is that you're always going to delight yourself in him. That's where you need to start and let him give you the desires, here again, of your heart, right? So when you make a request made unto him, because your heart is going to be connected, right? There's a heart there. And in our scriptures, it talk about a circumcised heart. In our scriptures, it talking about a new heart, a renewed heart. You need those things. It gives us those things, those pictures that we see in that. And so let him give us, right? So we can do it, but let him give us. And then this is very, very important. We have to commit our ways. So we have some ways about us, right? But we have to take those ways, and when they don't line up with his ways, and commit to his ways. So commit your ways to Yahweh and trust in him, and he does it, right? He will do it. So if you trust him, he will do it. That trust is something that we have to feed on, right? We have to feed on those things. Trust him. And so no matter what it might seem about someone, if I go back to this, no matter what it might seem about somebody, about someone, the headlines, the most things that we should start and begin to practice is to sit down and talk to the person before we begin to pass things on, right? Just because we read the headlines does not mean that that is so. Right. And so you have a part of the information, but if you can't talk to the person, then I know from experience that one told me about something, or maybe been a sickness or something. And then when I talked to that person, it was a whole different story. But I told somebody else, we'll just make up something. I say, they got what I want to say. They burnt their leg. They have a big old scar because someone else told me. And so I take that and I pass it on. So and so got they burned their leg and all that. And then I'm going to tell you in my vocabulary, and then I'm going to dramatize it on how I feel. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we all speak that way. Right. But when I talk to the person, they say, no, I didn't burn my leg. I burned my foot. Well, if I don't go back to the other person to get that right, then they living on, because they told me they living on that they burnt. Oh, the leg was burnt, but it was the foot. Do you see what I'm saying to you? And so that's maybe something that can slip by, but the headline, something that really grabs you about that person, according to what we're saying about that person, can be damaging. And so that's where we're going with this, right? And so for years, you may know, and there are people that get upset about somebody else, what somebody else said, and you won't speak to you and haven't spoke to you even today on what somebody else has said, and it was not so. So it's always good to get with that person, right? It's always good to do that, no matter what you can do. So when you hear news and you can't get to a person across the waters, or you hear things in other countries or whatever, you just hear them and say, did you hear about that? Yes. But do not put that in your heart like that. Right. Other words, don't put that in your heart. You can only go by, what it's going to be. Disappointment can be just a weather report. Right. It's going to rain today. Right. It's going to rain. So they are not out to deceive you. They're just looking at whatever they look at. Right. And the monitors and the gauges and all of that. And they said it's going to rain. But it did not rain. When you was dependent on the rain, it did not rain. Right. In that. So it's the same thing is when we're dealing with people. Just make sure that we can get with the person eventually. At least try to talk to them. Right. If we're going to pass things on, or if we're going to say things, because we are coming from a place where we think that's the way that it is, and it's not. So when a person tells us, I can go on that. One thing I wonder, we should be able to say, well, the person, say if the person is person A told me, right? That's the person. But most time we say, well, person B told me, person C, and you never went to A, and you living on person B and C, but you never went to A, person A. So you living on what B and C said to you, you know. So sometimes we can, be either less accurate or we can get accurate as possible, you know. Then we will be able to say, well, no, well, you told me that, dealing with that when we're passing something on. So I don't want to, be too long. I just want us to understand that sometimes all of if we using the term, the headlines is not always what it is about a person. It's not what it is. The story is not the story. It's just that somehow we have to grab the attention of other people, and then we get in that line, of course, of gossip and different things like that. Is that right? And so the most important thing is, yes, the Father knows the heart, and he knows our heart. And those things can be on a growth period in that. But always know that whatever you put in your heart and then you begin to do, right? That's one of the things that, let me see if I can go back to that. I think it was one of the deeds in that. I think we were saying the first one, if you put it in your heart, right? Whatever you put in your heart, search, right? Search the heart. And I try the kidneys according to your ways, according to the fruit. That's what I wanted to say, of your deeds, right? Of your deeds, the fruit of your deeds. And it can be a reflection of. So what it does is, as we study, as we have that relationship with the Father in our communities, we'll realize that our heart and the Father can connect in such a way. Now, what can get in between that? Well, I tell you, the commandments of men, right, over the things of the Father, right? That's what can get in the way, and so we don't want that to get in the way of us serving Him. That can bring about a disconnect, and so we want to be able to connect. What can also disconnect us is just living on the headline. Other words, just living on what somebody else has said about something. And no matter what it is, we can hear about even about an earthquake in a certain place or a certain country or whatever. We are getting some of the details. We are not getting all the details. So you may get some of the details about somebody too, some of it, and it could be accurate, right? But you're not getting all of the details unless you talk to the person, and then that person is willing to give you all of the details in that, So we're saying all things being equal, that they would be telling you the right things. So in this power up, I just want you to kind of look at those different things and make sure that our heart is connecting, and that which we do really comes from our heart, And so many times the repetition of something, causes us to have the disconnect. But the more that you the more that you do your deeds from your heart, they're going to be good deeds, right? And they're going to be connected, and they are going to be able to change you as a person that's serving the Most High, right? They'll be able to change you and all of those things in that. So I just want to just encourage you just a little bit on tonight. Hopefully that was a spot of something just to meditate on. It's not all things, but that would give you something to give you a start. And that's what Power is up on about. Hopefully that it encourage you that what is this disconnect, because it would take, a lot more teaching than that, of course. But that's something that you can meditate on as you go in your life to make sure that you commit your ways. There's some ways about us that we need to commit that we won't commit to Him, right? There's some ways, that, more than just one. The ways, we have different ways. All of those ways have to be committed to Him. And how do you do that? When His word comes, you submit to the word, not to the commandments of men, but you submit to the word. And once you submit to the word, then you are committing your ways to Yah, right? And that's a form of trust, because if He tells us to do it this way, then we trust that that is so. And then when man comes and then he gets in the middle of that, it doesn't work, right? You're going to have a disconnect. You're going to be doing this, what man says, but you're going to have a disconnect because it's not in your heart. Right. So if you connect it to your heart and serving with your heart and just not live, oh, I have to go, oh, I have to get up and do this. Oh, I have to, some of the things that we do, it's not like evil, right? Some of the things that we do, we just automatically do. But the Father want us to serve him with a connected heart. Right. He wanted to be connected. And then your heart, I mean, if you have time, there are over like 700 or so, just scripture, if you just talk about scriptures, ideas, because the heart you can have a stony heart. Maybe we'll deal with some of that. The scriptures tell us that, right? And so we we want a circumcised heart. A stony heart is a person that can have something, right? So I don't want to open that up, because if I do, then maybe that's something maybe we'll do maybe next week or something. I don't know. But that heart, you can have different types. And once you understand the types of your heart, you'll understand the disconnect. So I'm just giving you something to kind of get your motors going, and something that you can really dig into and put in your heart. And Father, I want to be able to do this in Psalms 37:3, to trust you, right? And to feed. That means you got to continue to eat. When you're talking about feeding, most of us eat almost every day, right? And so that's what we want to feed on, that, because that'll keep us steady in what we are doing. All right. Okay. Well, shalom to the old house of Israel, and those of you that are listening and being with us live, we appreciate you. And may the Father connect our hearts and connect our ways to him. So trust him with all of your heart and lean not to your own understanding. Shalom, family.